Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving on to today's first story, in which OP exacted revenge on her roommate for stealing her clothes and treating her like a crap. So OP completely destroyed her life. Now story. 2 years ago, when I F21 was in college, I was sharing a room with this weirdo named Mia. F20, she never stayed in the room, and neither did she attend classes that much because she was always doing drugs and was always intoxicated. We had been sharing a room for some time before I started noticing that my clothes were disappearing out of the blue, and it turned out Mia was stealing my clothes and selling them. So, one day I woke up to go to my lectures. As usual, I had been missing my mother a lot, so I planned on wearing the shirt that my mother last gave to me when I was going to college. I took a shower and went to dress up, just to notice that my shirt is not in my wardrobe. I started searching for it in so much distress. I wanted to wear it so bad as it made me feel so close to home although I was miles away. I took another shirt and put it on since I was getting late for class. I hurried to class. After my class, I went back to my room to try and find my shirt, but still nothing. Mia was sitting on her bed with her headset on, as usual. I called her a few times but she could not hear me, so I walked up to her and pet her a little on her shoulder to ask her. She looked at me from head to toe and started saying some aggressive things to me like, "Why the hell would I know where your worthless pelt of a shirt is? I don't have time to look after your scruffy shreds you call clothes." I immediately got offended and turned away from her to look for my shirt. She left the room and I sat in front of my wardrobe, and that's when I realized that it was not only my shirt that was missing, a couple more of clothes were gone. The only person I was starting to get suspicious of is my roommate Mia, because I hardly had friends who would want to wear my clothes, and even if they wanted to wear my clothes, why would they take my clothes without my consent? The weekend finally came and I was so excited because I was going to spend time with my family at home. I left for the weekend to visit my family, and I had a good time with them. I told my mom about my clothes and we went shopping that day. It was not only to spend some time and have some fun but to also replace the clothes I lost. We bought a few shirts, jeans and a few dresses as well. I must say my mom spoiled me that day. When we went home, I asked my dad how hard it was to install security cameras in a place. He looked at me and laughed. He asked me why I was asking. I told him why, and he did not agree with me at all. Of course, no adult would agree to a student installing cameras in a room they share. I laughed about it and pretended I was just pulling his leg. We changed the subject and went on with other stories all night. The next morning, I was then traveling back to college. I packed my new clothes and said goodbye to my family, then I left. When I arrived, I unpacked all my new clothes to do laundry because I did not want to wear them without washing them first. I hung them and went out to the class to do some assignments that were due the following day. It got dark so fast, or maybe it's because I was so busy that time just flew by so fast. I went back to the room and went to get the clothes from the line. And by surprise, one of my new shirts was gone again. I got so mad I went to ask Mia about it. She denied ever touching or taking any of my clothes. I was so angry I could skin her alive. I ground my teeth out of anger and I left the room. I went to ask the landlord if I could place security cameras in our room. The landlord disagreed with me putting cameras in the room. Could he judge me for wanting to install cameras? I mean, someone was stealing my clothes. I loved my clothes. If anyone wanted to mess with me, they had chosen the best way to get me to participate in their battle. Losing my clothes had left me devastated and made me feel violated. All I wanted was to know who was responsible for the way I was feeling. Then I can decide if I should get them back or if it was of no use to get the fool back. Even though the landlord disagreed, I had to find a way to get at least one camera in the room without Mia knowing anything. Because that would stop me from finding out the whole dirty truth about the person who has been stealing my clothes. I then thought, why not bribe the landlord? I went to see the landlord again to talk about it and get him to allow me to put security cameras. And surprisingly, he agreed with no hesitation. Although he asked me to pay extra for rent, which I was very much prepared for, it was worth it if it meant keeping him quiet about the cameras in the room. So, I went out to the shop to buy a set of 2 security cameras. It was quite easy to buy, but who was going to install them for me and make sure that they were not obvious? That was the hardest part after I bought the cameras. I put them in a box under my bed when Mia was not there. I could not hide them in the wardrobe because the thief would find them, and I had to be very smart with my plan if I wanted it to be a complete success. While Mia was out of the room as she was like any other time, I sneaked my classmate Armando into the room to install the cameras for me. It took about an hour and a half to install. After he was done, I gave him a bit of some cash and he left. Now that I could see everything that was going on in the room when I was not there made me feel a bit secure. And since my roommate of a thief had no idea that she was being watched, she kept doing her. A month went by with her stealing my clothes like she was picking them from a trash can. It was infuriating to watch, but I had to keep quiet about it for some time before I could make the exposure of the year. Mia came home with a nosebleed and a face full of terror. I tried asking her what happened, but all she said was, "Mind your business, dog poop. You wouldn't want me to take it out on you. So, get out of my way." I kept my next words to myself and kept quiet, although I was tempted to tell her what she deserves to hear. I went out of the room to get some air, and seconds after I left, I could tell that Mia was on a call with someone who was not happy with her. I did not worry about it at that time because I was going to watch it later when she leaves the room. After a few minutes, Mia left the room with a bag in quite a rush. I went back into the room and I found my wardrobe open, and I could immediately tell that she had taken clothes from me again. I was so pissed I could tell my temperature had risen. It was at that moment that I decided I had to do something about that thief. I started going through the footage to find out why she busted out like that at night. It seems she was on a phone call with someone she was owing money, and soon as she hung up, she quickly went into my wardrobe and took 3 shirts and 2 dresses. I sat on my bed wondering what could be the best way to expose her and make her regret what she did. But then I also thought that maybe I should approach her differently to ask her, because even though she's a pain in the gut, she could be in trouble and I could be her only way out. I started planning on the most effective and appropriate way to approach her without having to argue with her or be insulted by her. I waited for her to come back, but she had not come back that night. I was starting to get worried about her, the reason being she came in bleeding and the creepy phone call and the way that she left in a hurry. She finally came back later in the afternoon, and I must say she looked miserable. It looked like she had not gotten any sleep and she looked hungry and drained. I pushed myself to make a sandwich for her even though I was still mad at her for taking my clothes. I handed her the sandwich and she looked at me like I was her nemesis. She later took it and ate it in a blink of an eye, and I finally felt like I could ask her about my clothes. "Mia, I know we are not close, but I want you to know that you can always talk to me or ask me for anything at all," I said to her in a soft and calm voice. She said to me, "Is that why you made me the sandwich? I will never talk to you about anything. Don't grow a big head just because I ate your sandwich. It only happened this once." I felt like a naive little girl. Mia could never be a good person. I went to my bed and silently cried myself to sleep. In the morning I had the perfect plan to make Mia feel ashamed. I took the security footage of her stealing my clothes on different occasions and turned it into a short video clip that I then shared with different people on campus. The clip circulated on social media and people kept editing the video to add crazy emojis and texts that were bad-mouthing Mia. Mia had not seen it until the next day when she received it from one of her friends. She came to my class to confront me about it. She was so furious and embarrassed that her eyes turned red. She knew she could not do anything to me because everyone was on my side. Everyone started laughing at her and taking videos and pictures of her burning in fury and embarrassment. That is when she realized that there were too many people looking and laughing at her. Just when she was running away from the crowd, she bumped into the college chancellor and she was called to the office. I was later called to the chancellor's office as well. When I entered the office, I found Mia sobbing softly. I was asked to give my side of the story of how the video of Mia was circulating on all school media platforms. I cleared my throat and began to say, "A few months ago, I noticed that my clothes were disappearing. I first thought I was just misplacing them. Every time I asked Mia, she would always say some offensive things to me and make me feel like I was wrong for looking for my clothes. I decided to put hidden cameras in the room to find out where my clothes were disappearing to. That's how I got to find out that Mia has been selling my clothes. She was constantly on a phone call with someone who kept asking her for money. I was left with no other choice but to share the footage because she kept denying and being rude for no reason at all." I continued to say in a manipulating soft voice, "I know what I did was not so wise, but I was angry because of what Mia did to me." The chancellor sympathized with me and he decided that Mia was to be expelled right away. I smiled at a slight side that the chancellor could not see, but Mia could see. Mia was also told to pay me back for all the clothes that she stole. She was full of distress in her eyes. I must say I loved how she wanted to physically hurt me, but she knew she was in no place to do so. She looked like a bird that just fell into a pool of water. As much as I wanted to laugh out loud, I had to keep my act going to make sure that the chancellor stays on my side. Mia was given a week to gather money to pay me back, and she was given about 2 weeks to leave the college grounds. I loved seeing her look so helpless. Who was the dog poop now? She had to start selling her drugs to get the money she was owing. It turned out it was not the first time Mia was stolen from other students. She stole shoes from her roommate in high school and clothes from her first college roommate. So, everyone on campus started calling her names on social media and making memes about her. Me, on the other hand, I was just enjoying reading memes from my college colleagues and friends. She finally brought the money she owed me, and it was almost enough to pay for my rent. Before she left, she looked at me in anger and said to me, "This is not over yet, you little piece of garbage." I then said to her, "We will see about that, Mia. If I were you, I would find a job and do something with my useless life, and then maybe someone would be proud of you. Life is not only about drugs and stealing, you know. There's just more to life than what you do." I could tell she wanted to eat me all alive and not even leave bones, but she would not dare touch me. It would only make things worse for her. She left, and one could only conclude that she probably went to get high more than she had ever been before, because the pressure that I had put her through was unbearable for a regular thief who is not used to getting caught and made to pay for what she did. Other people that she stole from were unable to make her pay, but I just could not let her get away with it. Like, we don't have self-love. She needed to see that what she did was wrong. So I had to help her a little bit just for her to notice that things can easily turn on you. Now, here is the end of our first story. I hope you enjoyed OP's vengeance on her addict housemate. And, in my opinion, the OP did nothing wrong. Her roommate dug her own grave by messing with someone she shouldn't be messing with. I'm not sure how she has the audacity to treat Opus like garbage after stealing her clothes. But in the end, she deserved all she got. Guys, please leave a comment about this story, and what's your opinion about OP's roommate? So, before we get to the final story, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel to remain updated on more fantastic stories.
Now, moving to our final story, which is small but satisfying revenge by OP on a classmate who is jealous of OP's achievement and progress, so he tried to ruin his career. Now story. During my bachelor's studies, I fell in love with a girl from another country. She was diagnosed with a terminal illness shortly after we started dating. It was a long distance, but we used any opportunity to see each other. However, they were few. One such opportunity arose in the form of a conference in her country. We were in the same field, and she was involved in the organizing of the conference and got me on the list. I raised some funds to go, but another student was quite annoyed because he wanted to go and believed I had stolen his spot. He made very little effort to raise money and wasn't planning on giving any presentations, etc. The conference kicks off and things are going well. I'm participating, presenting, and representing my university very well. But the GF fainted one day and I took her to hospital. The illness was already known to us, so I was worried. She ended up having minor surgery, and I stayed with her in the hospital for a day and joined the conference again the next day. As planned, I stayed an extra week with her after the conference. When I got back home, I was blindsided by disciplinary action for going AWOL during duty travels. The other student found out I missed one day of the 7 of this conference and reported it, but grossly exaggerated. He knew I was in the hospital with a terminally ill partner but failed to mention this when lodging the complaints. This was a big deal because part of the funding I raised was from the government. I was facing both disciplinary action by my university, expulsion on the table, and charges brought by the government. I tried to appeal to his humanity. "Bro, she's dying," but he wouldn't budge, and the damage had been done. I was able to explain this in the university hearing and with a lawyer at my own cost. Literally all the money I had made over 4 years of a side job was able to get the government charges dropped. He suffered no repercussions for this, but his thesis defense was coming up and I wanted to see if I could interfere with his session. Even pointing out a little oversight to embarrass him would satisfy me. So, I studied his thesis. These are made public before a seminar. I came to the seminar very prepared. I found a huge error in his methodology, and I formulated a short, concise question to put him on the spot. The most I could expect was that this would negatively affect his final grade. As soon as I could, I took the floor to ask this question. He went red, couldn't explain. And his confidence took such a knock that he was unable to adequately answer the questions that followed. The review board failed him and he had to spend another 2 semesters at the university to start the project over. A costly extension, tuition fees, plus he also had to fund the new thesis work himself. This was a few years ago, but I heard recently that since he missed the first intake of recent graduates from our year, he ended up at a less than ideal company that went bankrupt shortly after and has been struggling since. I didn't mean for it to go that far, but I don't feel bad about it. Unfortunately, my GF passed away a few months later, and I'm quite sure he knew and no idea if he felt any remorse for what he did. Now, here is the end of our today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And, in my opinion, jealousy is the worst thing that can lead to self-destruction, as seen in the story. Guys, let me know if you've had a similar experience with a jealous coworker or friend, and what are your opinions about them. I'd want to hear your thoughts, so please leave them in the comments section. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.